Hey, I'm Abby and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share with you the number one thing that I see most often when it comes to failure to prepare for an interview. But before I jump into what that number one thing is, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're looking forward to learning about that number one thing that causes the most failures in interviews. And if you haven't already, please remember to go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. So what is the number one reason most interviews don't go well? It's because people who are interviewing don't actually practice their interviews before the actual interview. Now, this might seem counterintuitive and it might seem silly that this is the most common thing, but really it's very easy to get overconfident when it comes to your interview skills. Every interview is a learning and growth opportunity, and you can only get better. So if you practice your responses to actual interview questions and you practice what it could be like in an interview, that will only help your chances. People who tend to have bad experiences in interviews, reflecting back on that process, can point out that their lack of practice for the actual interview is what highly contributed to what they believe is a failure to move on in the interview or hiring process. So you can do all of the research, you can do all of the preparation, you can review your application materials, you can review the organization's website, review their mission, vision, and values. You can even review interview questions and create your responses to those interview questions. So even with all of that practice and preparation, if you don't actually verbally practice responding to interview questions, then you're going to be at a significant disadvantage. So I have two ways that will help you practice this interview process, which will hopefully make your entire interview experience go much smoother and have a more positive outcome. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer. You might hate this first suggestion because it can feel uncomfortable to do what I'm about to suggest. However, it works, which is why it's the number one thing that I'm suggesting you do in order to practice your responses to interview questions. Record yourself and then watch it back. Now, if you are like me when I originally heard this piece of advice as a job seeker, you will probably internally cringe, or you might even just outwardly, blatantly cringe. Yes, it can be uncomfortable to watch yourself. Yes, it can be uncomfortable to hear your own voice. However, getting the data about what you actually look like and sound like while you're responding to interview questions is invaluable. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your phone, your laptop, whatever type of device you might have that has a camera and a microphone, and I want you to set yourself up in a room that is quiet and hopefully as distraction-free as possible. And I want you to record yourself stating the question that you're about to answer, and then also your response. Then you're going to watch this recording back. And while it might be uncomfortable, I want you to look for these 5 things. First, I want you to watch your body language. When you're answering these questions, what does it actually look like when you're answering these questions? Are you closed off? Are you overly animated? Do you have a straight face with no expression? What do you look like and what is your body doing when you're answering these questions? The second thing I want you to listen for is what you actually sound like. So this isn't actually listening to the content of your answers to these interview questions. It's listening to the other stuff. So this is the tone of your voice. This is the speed of your voice, the syncopation of how you actually respond, etc. So what does it sound like to hear your responses to these interview questions? Not actually what do you hear, the actual content of your question, that will come later, but what does it feel like? What does it sound like to hear these questions and answers back? The third thing I want you to keep an eye on is the length of your responses. Interview questions shouldn't be answered in one sentence. So your response should not be 10 seconds long. However, interview questions also shouldn't be answered in 3 pages worth of response time. Your ideal interview question response, at least for the first part of your response, should be between 30 seconds to 3 minutes. 30 seconds is on the short end, 3 minutes is on the long end. Now, I clarify that this should be the first part of your response because there may be some follow-up questions that the interviewers have for you in regards to your answer to this question. But your answer should not be drawn out, and they also should not be too short that it's missing critical information. So along those same lines, the fourth thing that you should be listening for when it comes to answering these questions and watching yourself back is, does your answer follow the CAR or STAR method? If you aren't quite sure what I'm talking about, this is a very common template or format to use when answering behavior-based interview questions. I have several videos on the CAR and the STAR method, so I've linked to them in the description box below. So if you, again, are unsure what I'm talking about, please reference those videos next so that you can become familiar with that response style. You want to listen for your CAR. C, the context that you provide in order to answer the interviewer's question. A, the actions that you took within the context that you're providing that will then bring you to the R, or the results that you've achieved as a result of the actions you've taken in that context. So you want to listen for your answer to include the C, the A, and the R when you're answering behavior-based interview questions. And finally, the fifth thing that I want you to pay attention to when you watch yourself back is the overall feeling of your response. Does it feel like you've answered the question? Do you like your response? Are you proud of your response? Does your response fit the actual question that was asked? So that's one way to practice, recording yourself and watching yourself back. The other way to practice is to ask someone to help you. This is not an official mock interview, but it is pretty close to what a mock interview would feel like. So when you ask someone to help you with this interview process, you will tell them a little bit about the position and why you want to apply. I would also recommend letting them know why you think you are a good fit for the position. Share with them the STAR and the CAR technique so that they can listen specifically for your answer to include those different aspects of the response. The C, the A, the R. You also don't want them to just be making up random questions for the interview process. You want to give them a list of pre-prepared questions that you expect to be asked during the interview process. This will help you make it feel as realistic as you can. And then what I would recommend you do is ask them to give you honest feedback about your response to the interview questions. Did they feel like your answer was too long or too short? Did they feel like your answer actually answered the question that they asked? Did they feel like your answer was missing anything based on what they know about you and your experience? How was the CAR that you shared? And do they have any feedback for you about how you showed up non-verbally? Your body language, your tone of voice, your posture, your syncopation of the words that you were using, etc. So that honest feedback is really what you are looking for from this experience of asking someone to help you practice your responses to interview questions. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and I hope you have the courage to try my first suggestion of recording yourself and watching it back. That is really where you will find probably the most helpful information about how you show up and how you sound during the interview process. If you did find this video helpful, please go ahead and remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, please put them in the comments box below. I love receiving comments. I respond to them all individually. So if you do have any additional questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, put them down below and I will get back to you as quickly as I'm able. If you haven't already, please remember to go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life, work, balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.